You shock us awake there, Lauren. Greetings. Okay. I mean, you know, I think for the weather, it was actually trying to turn. Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. But your shit's a cool stuff. Right, yeah.
Oh, back to the Eagles.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call the April 8th joint public meeting with the Town Council Planning Commission order at 5:30. I'd like to remind everybody we have multiple sign sheets over by the door. If you would like to speak, please sign it right there. You can look at 5 minutes. All of you take it in person. Comments this evening. Have a roll call, please.
Yes. Mr. Dijak,
Present.
Mr. Seward,
Present.
Ms. Pennell. Present. Mayor Jackson,
Present.
Ms. Matthias. Present. Ms. Estes.
Here.
Planning Commission, Ms. Resnick, Mr. Shiflett, Mr. Swindle, Mr. Dijak,
Present again.
Mr. Holland.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh, just-
Mr. Wall, I missed you.
Well.
Good to have you.
Glad you're joining.
This evening's public hearing is to hear public comment regarding the proposed special use permit for black rubber painting. We will start with the staff report from Ms. Roach and then have an opportunity for public comments. Speakers are asked to address council and the commission and
Good evening. Black Brothers Painting has applied for a special use permit to build an office workshop combo located at tax map number 107D1-15-1A, which is at the northeast corner of the intersection at Mason Street and Stonecroft Drive. The applicant has requested a special use permit on approximately 4.4 acres of property, again located between the South Breeze Estate subdivision and Route 257. The SUP is for the construction of an office workshop building for a painting contractor business. The property is zoned B1 conditional. Conditional indicates there are proffers associated with this property. In this case, the proffers for this property exempt some of the by right uses and also specify design standards. And according to town code, a general service painting business is not a by right use and would require a special use permit. The office will be 1,800 square feet and the workshop will be 2,500 square feet. The height of the building is 25 feet and a site plan is included with the application that shows the location of the proposed building. Please note that at this time, the applicant is only pursuing building number 2 on the site plan. However, the other building shown could possibly be developed in the future. In addition, I just want to point out that the applicant has indicated a well-kept, clean area with no outside operations. They will also be responsible for the maintenance of the remainder of the property until that development happens. If the SUP is recommended and adopted for approval, the applicant is also requesting an amendment to the proffers, specifically the requirement for a brick exterior. The applicant has requested to use stone as opposed to brick. That's pretty much all of the factual information I have for the staff report. And we will now open it up to public comment. Okay, I'll just let you know that I did receive one letter of support and I believe you all have a copy.
Did everybody receive that?
Yeah.
Council, you have questions?
Is the applicant here to speak to the,
Sorry.
is the applicant willing to speak to the application?
If you like.
Okay, there you go. That's fine too.
We have our architect here. From the office. So we're here. What that have. About the building and what we just never put there. And again, I mean, we have spent a lot of time and resources to design the building. With our architect and. But I'm love the questions that you have.
Questions and answers. All right, meeting adjourned at 5:34. This council will come down.
You don't have to switch if you don't want to.
That's
If we
okay.
put them in front there.
There you go. There you go.
Mr. Holland is on his way. If you want me to wait for a couple.
How close is he?
He didn't say.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I would.
I will now call this, whoa, that's really loud.
Well,
Do
yeah.
I need that for the video? Okay.
Yeah.
I will now call a special called meeting of the Dayton Planning Commission to order at, what time we got, 5:34. Tonight's purpose of the meeting is to consider the proposed special use permit on behalf of Black Brothers Painting for tax map number 107D1-15-1A. The special use permit request is to allow a painting contractor classified as general service in town code to operate in the B1 conditional zoning district. So what discussion do we have at this time? Bradford, do you want to get us started?
If you'd like to, yes, ma'am. Yes, Madam Chair. No, very good. I do want to thank the applicant and Black Brothers for coming out. Certainly understand that's a big investment, a big commitment here, and we're pleased that you've considered Dayton as a destination of choice. So that's that's great. I think it was reassuring to hear that. Oh, very good. Come on now, there you go, just in time.
Son struck broke down in Sydney. And
Oh.
his wife 2 hours.
Duty calls. Thank you very much. All right, we got 4 out of 5 of the commissioners. That's good. All right, well, you're just in time to hear me wax nostalgic and poetic here about this special use permit. Yeah, but I do think this is certainly appreciative that the investments being made, but then also I think the knowing that one of the adjacent landowners did write an email of support, not only just tacitly, but actually said that they were certainly understanding and appreciative of that. I think that is a testament there. So this is kind of setting the tone for that whole subdivision we've been talking about for years. I know we've got 2 council members here in that South Breeze, and I mean, how long have you all been hearing about that?
Just a former mayor down here.
Yeah, there you go.
You remember that started, probably what, 2007, I believe, that started, 2008.
Yeah.
So it was, it's been a long time ago that project started.
So I think, yeah, exactly. So there you go. Now we're seeing that investment here. So this was contemplated, I think, as it relates to the special use itself. I do think that's I think we could say that it's been sufficiently addressed within the application that it won't really have a material impact. The traffic has been kind of mitigated. There's not sort of construction or activity that's going to be conducted outside that building. So I think the only thing I would perhaps recommend, if we do make a recommendation of approval to council, would be just to have the condition of screening with some evergreens in the back of in the rear parking lot, just to break up that residential flow there, even though I know it's certainly been contemplated, but just to kind of make a little distinction there. You know, other than that, so that would be part of a motion if the rest of the commission is inclined, but I think it's met the other intent and use of the special use permit requirements. But that, I'm 1 of 4.
Bradford, I agree with you completely, and I also like the addition of the evergreens on the backside. I think that will help create a little bit of a barrier. You know. I will entertain a motion then if everyone is.
I'll make,
There's further discussion.
and I guess we have to do 2 motions. Ms. Roach, correct? One would be the SUP recommendation
Right,
and the
for
second would be
the SUP.
recommendation of the proffer amendment,
Mhm.
correct? Okay.
Yeah,
All right, well then I'll make the first motion then. I'll make the first, just a finding of fact that that the use is consistent with the character of the zoning district and location and the comprehensive plan, and that it is convinced that the structure will further the town's objectives as expressed in section 30-3 of the town zoning code. And then based on that finding of fact, I recommend that the town council approve the special use permit for this project for Black's Flooring, with the condition that the rear parking area be screened from the residential areas with sufficient evergreen trees planted at least 6 feet high in a single row parallel with the property boundary line as approved by the zoning administrator and prior to the issuance of certificate of occupancy.
Second.
I think, I'm sorry, we need a roll call vote on this one. So, Ms. Resnick.
Aye.
Mr. Swindle,
Aye.
Mr. Dijakt.
Aye.
Mr. Holland.
Aye.
Mr. Shipley.
Can I just point out that it's Blackfriars changing, not.
Oh, Floyd, I'm sorry, yeah.
Okay, they're 2 separate.
Why?
We have that correction.
And then we also we'll have to do a roll call vote for the amendment to use stone opposed to brick.
I guess I'll make a motion then
Yeah.
that we recommend the proffer amendment for the stone for 75% of the building materials as opposed to brick. And again, that would apply for all future buildings in that, on that lot.
Yes, yeah. So, Ms. Resnick.
Aye.
Mr. Swindle.
Aye.
Mr. Dijak.
Aye.
Mr. Holland. Aye. And Mr. Shipley.
And I believe that's all of our business to discuss this evening, so I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion, we adjourn this meeting.
All in favor of adjourning the special call meeting of the Dayton Planning Commission?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting's adjourned.
All right.
And the actual council meeting this evening will start at 6 o'clock.
Okay, all right.
I was just noticing that earlier. I was like, I would have thought there would have been some students still. I thought there was some outside. They was coming in, they didn't come in.
Yes.
No, bring them out. We got them together. We can't go nowhere without.
Collection fast.
Oh, good. No, he just rode with me today. He actually got one of the time to come with me.
People practice on Saturday morning and it was actually a game.
Mhm.
It's just an hour and a half. I think little kids t-ball and little kids soccer, it's just. That's not good. Yeah, like. Soccer, my nephew played that, like wherever.
Ms. Wade, ready?
Everybody. Yeah. So, Thanks. the minutes to the right place. Yes, we're here, though, we should. 2 weeks.
Good evening. It's my pleasure to call the April 8th Dayton Town Council meeting to order at 6 o'clock. I would like to remind everybody, we have multiple sign-up sheets at the front door for those that would like to speak during any point of our multiple sessions tonight. You'd be limited to 5 minutes. We'll only be taking in-person comments this evening. Actually, do you want to amend our roll call because you weren't here for? Right?
Only one of the new is Jordan.
Okay, good. All right.
We need a new roll
get
call.
the new-
And it's
okay.
not included, so, yeah, we want you.
Mr. Walls, Mr. Seward,
Present.
Ms. Matthias,
Present.
Ms. Estes, Ms. Pennell,
Present.
Mr. Dijak,
Present.
Mayor Jackson.
Present. Thank you, Ms. Wade.
You're welcome.
The laughter was because we just did a public meeting with our planning commission and Mr. Walsh was left off that roll call. So
Yeah.
we want to make sure he didn't get left off a second
There you
time. Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to meet this evening to take care of the town business. We ask that you comfort those across the country who are either less fortunate or experiencing troubled times or conflicts in the family. We ask that you watch over our first responders and men and women of the military across this country and abroad. We pray in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, it's gonna be a marathon tonight. We'll begin by opening our first public hearing tonight at 6:02. I'll open a hearing for public comments on the fiscal year 24 budget amendment. Mr. Bourne, can we have a staff report on that?
Sure. The FY 24 budget amendment is pursuant to Virginia Code 15.2-2507. Which gives us the authority to adjust that budget. The budget amendment before you tonight is to consider adoption to increase the town's fiscal year 2023-24 budget in the total of $392,671. This increase reflects additional expenses for professional fees related to the interim town manager services and recruitment and the compensation study, capital purchases and increased costs for materials, supplies, and equipment. The amendment also reflects additional income and use of revenues in the amount of $392,671 from ARPA, that is the American Recovery Program Act, and the USDA, United States Department of Agriculture funds, and other unanticipated and increased revenue sources. Staff and Finance Committee do recommend approval of the FY 24 budget amendment as presented.
Thank you. We have one person signed up, Mr. Resnick. You could please come up front. You're pretty much there. Do we have microphone? Oh, you got it. You just turn that on there. At the bottom.
No?
Yeah.
Yes?
There you
Okay.
go.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. Just as an introduction, my name's Tom Resnick. I live over at 55 Stover Street. I moved into Dayton back in 1984 on Westview Street and fell in love with the town, and we built our dream house over there on Stover, where my wife and I raised our 3 children. Also, a little back history of me. This is amazing group building. I served on both the Dayton Planning Commission and Town Council back in the dark ages in the early to mid nineties. So it was nothing like this, ladies and gentlemen. So the reason I'm here, I'm just asking the council if the town, if they would consider taking a look at a possible hazardous issue at the back of properties on Stover Street. It's basically the town's alleyway, right away that there's an apron coming off a Summit that goes through the properties to Ashby. I'm also addressing this on behalf of Jimmy and Hazel Scholl. I believe Jimmy was on council way back before me. My other neighbor, Abby Smith, and the Yoders. Basically, if I may I approach?
Certainly.
Okay, I had just printed some things out. If you want to pass them around, I've got one copy of some color photos, but again, this is, please take this not as a complaint or a criticism, but more of a preventive issue. Back in the number one photo that you will see, but I'll keep talking over here. There were a clump of branches that fell to the ground on August the 8th of last year. Miraculously, I was not hurt. I was mowing my grass on my garden tractor, came inside for some water, and about 15 minutes later, what you see there in photo number one came crashing to the ground. Shortly thereafter, I spoke to Adam. It was his last name Meeks, the director. Okay. I spoke with him, excellent gentleman. We talked about it. I said, hey, is there something that can be done to trim these trees which belong to the town of Dayton? At that point, he said he recognized the seriousness of the situation, but says, no, it's, quote, it's not in the budget. So further on, so that was in August, September of October. I don't remember exactly when. I spoke to the interim town manager, Earl Mathers, explained the situation, showed him some photographs as well. And he recognized that it was an issue, but again, it came down to a budgetary issue. So when I got the newsletter, I was excited. I'm like, okay, there are a couple things here that I do agree with this town. I think it's one of the most beautiful towns in the valley, obviously, because I've been living here most of my life. But this is regarding, as you quoted, to public safety and infrastructure. But anyway, I'm hoping that the town can do something so there's not a tragedy. I've got all my kids are grown. I've got grandkids, neighbors have kids and grandkids, so forth and so on. And again, anything that I can do to assist the town, I'm just too seasoned to go climbing trees anymore. But if the trees would be left on the ground, I would take the responsibility of getting them off all those four properties, cutting them up and disposing of them or whatever. So it's, again, that's the reason I'm here, because of the budgetary issues that I was told to last year, and hopefully something could be, looked at this point in time. And I just printed out the same thing that I'm kind of quoting here, because I apologize, but I don't recognize any of you all, and probably it's the same here, because although I have a lot of contact with the police department, not for being a bad guy, but what I've done for what I've done for a living. I was
Thanks for clarifying that.
yeah, well, I think the chief will say that. I retired from the state as the deputy chief probation parole officer after 29 years, and currently working for the Commonwealth Attorney as a criminal investigator. So as a seasoned citizen, I'm still in the game. But again, I come here with hope and not complaint, not criticism, because you're not going to find a better town than Dayton.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And we don't respond to public comments, but we did discuss this, and I'll have staff reach out to you. If you can just give, Chief, do you have his phone number?
I do.
Okay, we'll reach out to you.
Anybody wants public works, anybody look at it. Not outside of market.
Thank you.
All right, this now concludes our first public hearing at 6:09. I'll open the second public hearing for public comment for fiscal year 25 budget, the proposed budget. We have a staff report on that.
Okay, well, I've actually got a presentation that I'll go through, but this, as mentioned in the newsletter and the budget message, is the proposed budget being brought to council. Tonight is the public hearing for that budget, and It will be considered at the May meeting. So I will just kind of begin. There's basically three principles that were used in developing the budget, and number one was realistic assumptions. I wanted to base the budget on real numbers. So any quotes or any kind of things that would increase the budget, I asked of staff that they get a real quote, and let's bring forward some real numbers to work with. And then strategy sought to balance, the interest of citizens, public safety, staff views, facility infrastructure, service, sustainment. And then again, employee well-being. We've got to put that into the picture also. And doing all of this without placing any additional financial burden on citizenry, merchants, and industry. So that was quite a balancing act. And then preserving fund balance. Fund balance is there in case of emergencies in a time of need or an economic downturn. And it's important that you keep those in place. Dayton has been fortunate to have had fund balance to ride them for a while and help them out. But in the future, in the capital improvement plan, there's some future needs that are quite expensive that Dayton is looking at. And we can take from fund balance for only so long without replacing those savings. So preserving that fund balance is very important. Major challenges, balancing between revenue and expenditures at the current rate. And you'll see later on that expenses, it doesn't really balance in the general fund. Revenues don't balance out with the expenditures, thereby reliance on your fund balance. Implement practices to maintain adequate reserve funds, that we talked about that earlier. Policies and practices to retain and recruit talented staff. It's much easier to keep the staff you have than to recruit. And there was an issue, first getting here, there's been a lot of turnover. That turnover cost money. You're used as a training ground. People get their certifications, their CDLs, and then they move on to another job. All of those things cost the town money to get those people trained. So we want to keep them if we're going to make that investment. So there are things in the budget to help with that. That was a challenge. Addressing additional staff needs. There are those needs to meet service demands. We've addressed some. There are more. We can't address them all completely, but we can work towards that with a plan. And then deferring various capital projects, equipment, or personnel. So those were some of the challenges in the budget. And let's just get into the numbers now. And I'm going to try to put this in just very practical terms. General property tax is the largest single source of revenue. That's the rate is 8 cents per $100. And the town of Dayton through property tax generates $166,500 for the general fund. That's all of the assessed property in Dayton that generates $166,500. And we'll look at that a little more later. Other local tax, those are various taxes that are where we get revenue. They all total to $426,750. Revenue, $337,854 in federal state funding. So we have a total general fund revenue of $1,052,292. Remember that number. Our other revenue, sales tax, food and beverage, occupancy, communications, utility business license. generates 65,000. Vehicle license generates 45,000. Zoning permits, 1,500. And these are all variable. They're based on the market and the economy. They fluctuate, they come, they go. And being part of a deal and rule state, the legislature can change those sources of revenues anytime they want, as they can change other laws or whatever. So those are the ones that we have now in place. As we get revenue, we also can lose revenue. We have lost eligibility for the USDA grant, which funded $25,000 a pop for police vehicles and other vehicles in the town. This is because the USDA, their formula adjusted the maximum allowable median household income. Back in 2010, the census, the median household income in Dayton was $36,576. 10 years later, according to the census and USDA calculations with their formula, that median household income has increased to $68,333. Their maximum allowable median household income for funding to fund a grant application is $61,671. Therefore, we are no longer eligible for that $25,000 to help purchase police cars. And in 2022, if you look at the print below, the American Community Survey that of 2022 puts Dayton's median household income even higher at $81,346. These numbers don't agree, but they're indicating the same thing. And each agency like USDA has their own formulas to calculate what criteria they develop to be eligible for their funding. So those maximum allowables are different for different funding agencies. So let's look at expenses. With general government, this is the general fund. So we have general government, 798,000, public safety, 822,000. That's about 78% of the general fund revenue for that department alone. Public Works is 627,000, Parks and Rec and Culture is 168, and Community and Economic Development is 191. So our total expenses in the general fund in aggregate are 2.6 million. That's 1 million over our revenues. So we're running a deficit in the general fund. So you have revenues, expenses, so your total deficit is about 1.5 million that we have to get from other sources. Water and Sewer Fund. This is an enterprise fund. Typically revenues, the cost of doing business for water and sewer is paid, the maintenance is paid by the fees that are charged. Usually that money stays within that fund. However, in Virginia, it's a little different and you can transfer money from an enterprise fund to the general fund. So we have revenues of $4,019,000. Our operations for water and sewer total 2.8 million, which leaves us a net of 1.211 million, $1,211,878. So we do make money in the water business. The water business is what keeps Dayton going. It's very important to Dayton, as you'll see later on. So in order to balance the budget, whatever is netted, that 1.2 million net revenue from water and sewer along with money from capital reserves, which is savings, is transferred to the general fund to balance that $1.5 million deficit. Therein lies the concern. And if you look at here, you'll see kind of the history of Dayton's transfers from the water fund and the monies that were in the fund and investment balance. Those numbers are going up. Last year, there was a transfer of 1.571 million to the general fund. Our current balance is 4.299. So by calculation, if we continue where we're going, we're in good financial shape. Dayton has no debt, but we can't keep using reserves or savings to balance the budget, especially knowing future projects in the CIP, like that water storage facility that you'll hear a little about, or that's planned in the CIP that is needed here in Dayton. So we've got, here's where we're at. The budget I'm proposing is the $7,740,700. That is less than fiscal year 24's budget after the budget amendment is, if it's approved, after that amendment to the fiscal year 24 budget, we are actually lower this year than last, as with the CIP. You'll see those numbers on the slide. So I'm proposing a lesser budget than last year, than this current fiscal year. And that proposed budget, and I'm just going to be totally transparent, the budget amendment is about $5,000 less than anticipated. So you could look at that lower number, proposed budget savings of 348. That's reflected there. So that's $5,029 less. So the budget is actually less at 343.95. So we're still saving money. But if we saved money in the budget amendment, it goes hand in hand. It comes somewhere. It all has to add up at the end. So here's where we are. This is what I was talking about earlier. All of the property in Dayton that is taxable, that is assessed, all of the property is valued at $208 billion. $208 billion of assessed property value generates for the town of Dayton at the current 8 cents per hundred assessed value, $166,500. So that means 1 cent of your 8 cent generates $20,812. So if overnight we had someone make an investment in Dayton, and that investment is assessed at $1 million, that would add additional revenue of $800 to our budget. If overnight, if tomorrow someone came in and made an investment that was assessed at $20 million, we could add $16,000 to that $166,000 revenue from taxes. Now, don't get me wrong, there's no tax increase proposal in this budget. The budget is balanced at the current rate. I'll just put that out there now. As challenging as that is or was, there's no change. I'm proposing no change. But there are some townwide initiatives that I want to mention that are included in this budget that I feel are necessary. Like private sector, we do have to compensate our employees, and staying up to date with annual merit and COLA increases is part of that. This is part of that plan to help retain and attract talented employees because they will move. It's just like the private sector. they can get more money elsewhere, it's more attractive, they will go. And I directly experienced that problem. I know that for a fact. Continue to pay. We're continuing with our current health insurance plan where we pay health and dental premiums 100% for the employee, 70% for the family. Small token of appreciation, increasing that Christmas bonus for all to $500. Maintain funding to encourage career development. With a small staff, there's very few opportunities for upward mobility in the career ladder. But we want to reward them for obtaining certificates and certifications in their fields of technical experience or expertise or whatever. And then a flex holiday would be added to the holiday schedule. This has really no budgetary impact, no numbers. It's just one of those perks to help make Dayton an attractive place to come and work and to stay and work. There will be some restrictions on that. It will not start till January 1 of 25. And there'll be certain restrictions like supervisory approval and different things like that. It has to be used all 8 hours. It is a holiday. It's not going to be accumulated towards any kind of PTO or anything like that. It can't carry over. If it's not used by the end of the calendar year, it's lost. So, and all of these are those efforts I mentioned to retain and attract talented employees. So right now, I'll just go through the general fund. This is kind of highlights of the budget, some of the larger expenses that are included in the budget. Upgrading the general government, that's all your general fund. Well, not all of the general fund, but kind of the administrative team, accounting, zoning, all those kinds of departments or divisions. Computer upgrades for all departments. Adding a position in the Treasury's office would be one of that. We've had several occasions where we were in quite a bind. I don't think they want me running the drive-through or collecting funds at the window. I can do it, but it might not be done. But we were almost there and had to close the window one day because things happen with so few staff. And this would help us in another area. You'll hear more about that later. New copiers, that's kind of a trade-in that has no real impact, but it's a big item. Nothing was excluded or delayed. There were no capital items, and so none of those were excluded or delayed either. In public safety, the LiDAR testing, I think replacing their handguns on a schedule when it needs to be replaced. I don't want our officers out there, if they need their gun, to have it malfunction because it's old and not in good repair or in good shape. And some active shooter wear and different things like that. I feel like those are true needs. If you're in law enforcement, if it involves the safety of an officer or the safety of the public. And in there, the police department has its own career development plan. So that 2.5 increase in the police department, if they successfully complete that plan, is included in the budget. What is excluded is police uniforms. There were no capital. And then in the CIP, at the bottom, you'll see new equipment. We were on a yearly schedule for vehicle replacement. However, that was because the whole fleet was basically old. We are now just one car, I think. And so we are going on a biannual rather than an annual vehicle replacement in the police department. That gives us a vehicle every other year. Saves a little bit of money for the CIP. And then the Axon in-car cameras, that's out in fiscal year 27. Now, All of these items I'm telling you about, and I should have gone through this earlier, but these were all, this was a very inclusive process. These were all brought forward by the different departments. All of their needs were ranked. They ranked them. The rankings went from imperative, a must do, to essential, a should do, important, a could do, and desirable is an other, meaning it has really no impact. So what you're seeing here are mostly imperative and essential items that were in the budget. This was not done in the manager's office behind closed doors in a vacuum. There was much discussion with staff as to what they needed to come up with this budget. And I think we're all in agreement as far as the budget goes in what it's funding or not funding. Public Works. We have, we added a staff member. We kind of replaced a senior staff with a lower staff this year, and our senior staff promoted someone that took on additional duties. A lot of the increases here are due to inflation. Nothing was excluded, and you'll see the capital improvements for Public Works are significant. A bio truck. This is the truck that you see picking up your yard waste, your bulky trash. This is the truck you see picking up trash at events. It has many uses here in the city. Very important piece of equipment. It needs to be replaced. It's $130,000. Skid steer is 60. That's a vital piece of equipment to provide the services you're accustomed to with regard to any work done on streets or whatever around the city. That has a little asterisk by it because we are looking into repairing the current skid steer to give it a little bit longer life and hopefully can push out that 60,000 to hopefully further out. We don't know how much farther out that would be, but for a minimal amount of funding, we think we could get a little more life out of it, but I want it included in the budget in case it just gives out. That way we can get one and no services are disrupted. A mower is essential with, of course, with all of the parks and land around town that needs to be maintained. Excluded is a small truck and the dump truck. We've pushed those out. All of the three items in red are imperative.
Before you change pages, let me say something. I've been on council for over 6 years, and the bio truck has been on the CIP or a need for 6 years. And because it is such a large ticket item, we have pushed it off year after year after year and done everything we can to keep that piece of equipment operating. And we're at the point that there's only so much duct tape and super glue you can put on this piece of equipment. And so we are at the point. So 6 years, we have pushed this piece of equipment along, and hats off to Public Works for keeping all of their equipment running as long as we can. And we did ask them to do what they could again this year on the skid steer to be able to use a little bit more bubble gum and masking tape to see if we can get by one more year. But Brian did feel it was important enough to keep in the budget, not that we're going to go out and buy it, but if there's a true need this year that we'll do it. But I just want everybody to understand that, these are things that sit on budgets year after year, and they don't just automatically, because staff says we want this, that it just doesn't happen that way. So those are large ticket items, and a lot of, time and effort and conversations go into those. So just because Public Works says, I want this, doesn't mean Public Works gets it. Isn't that right? Thank you, Brian.
Well, thank you. And just to add to that, the CIP, the capital improvement plan or program, is something that helps us look at the needs not only today to see what that dollar amount and what those pieces of equipment are, but it helps us put out the timeline so we can plan the lifespan of a bio truck, and rather than operate, well, we're gonna replace it when it dies kind of thing. We know that in 10 years, we're going to need, or 7 years, another truck or another police car they're replaced basically every 7 years. So we know those expenses are coming and we could try to plan for them in the future with the capital improvement program. That's why it's set up that way. It's 5 years out.
Jennifer, what year is that bio truck? 1982. That truck has
That's a
been in
lot
the
more
town.
than 10 years. Um, So now we have Parks and Rec. Basically, this budget stays relatively the same. The only changes there were due to event changes in the events or inflation changes, but there was nothing that was excluded or delayed. There were really no capital items. And like I said, nothing was excluded or delayed. In community and economic development, which is an important piece of any city's plan, strategic plan. There's some inclusion here in PDF software and permitting and licensing software. There was a request for additional personnel, however, that was not that was excluded. It was delayed. With the other position, there's some reorganizing within the staffing that we could provide some help, needed help in community and economic development, and try to get Maggie focused a little more on the economic development and the planning and zoning aspects of her job. You wouldn't believe the amount of duties in her job description. So that hopefully we can address that need through some reorganization with the hiring of that other person. The capital improvement plan, we do have the downtown revitalization, the master plan, downtown master plan. That is in the CIP. That process begins very soon. We do have $250,000 in fiscal year 26, next fiscal year's budget, to start implementing some of the projects that will be proposed in that downtown master plan. This is an expense we know is coming. If we want to see some improvements in that regard, we have to plan financially for those. That plan should outline specific projects, some funding sources, probably some cost, but they're all estimates. So that changes as time goes. Excluded was this would be very nice for the town. I agree, but a large outdoor tree for Dove Park at $22,000 is not something I could consciously fund or recommend for funding. So water and sewer operations. Included, we have engineering services. Water and sewer requires the service of engineers frequently, so we needed to up that a bit to cover costs that we see rising, equipment replacement. New meter reading software. We want to get this on board before the current one. We can't read your meters anymore, kind of situation. So we want to get that right so we can take accurate readings. Nothing was really excluded from this area. Capital improvements, you'll see here the water storage tank design and engineering at $350,000. Now, this is only for design and engineering. The construction of that facility is estimated at $5 million. So in addition to whatever other items are planned for fiscal year 26 in our capital improvement program, you have an additional $5 million, which puts the total for FY 26, and I'll just, at $6,577,800. So how are we going to fund that is my thing. So we're coming up with a plan, hopefully. The well number 5 in mini plant, this is just phase 1. That's $25,000. Those 2 items were ranked essential, not imperative. So they're not must do's. But because of the importance of water to the town of Dayton, I feel they're necessary to include in the CIP this year. The well and the high service pump is an imperative item. If that pump gives out, that will disrupt your service. And we do not want that to happen for residents or for Cargill or anything. Excluded, you'll see those items. Those could be put off for a while, not forever. But there's a couple of, a big ticket one, that elevated pump house generator. That's gonna have to be addressed. So that's one of those big ticket items that we have to plan and prepare for budget wise. And of course, with the budget, there are your fee and rate changes. What I'm proposing is, and this has been voted by council, on an annual basis, a 3% increase to water and sewer rates. Proposing a $500 increase for water and sewer connection fees. Increasing the rate to $22 for monthly trash collection. The trash collection fee is what covers our contract with waste management. That has nothing to do with your leaf collection, your yard waste, your bulky waste. The town does all of that and provides that. There's a cost to all of that we have to realize. So hopefully this will help defray some, not all, but a small portion of those costs. Increase to $25 for accessory building and sign zoning permits. This is just to make it at the $25. It's all other fees are at that rate. This just brings that up and be consistent. The other 3 address food trucks and special events and different things like that, establishing a $50 special event permit fee, establishment of a temporary use permit fee, and then the adoption of a B-pole tax at $50 a year. This would apply for our mobile food vendors, and the other 2 also apply in some respects to mobile food vendors and other things. So that, in short, is the proposed budget. I will remind you, it's less than last year, and the proposed budget is $7.7 million. So I will thank you, everyone, for attending. Thank you, council, for your participation in this exciting event.
Staff put together a schedule in December. That's how long, that's when the budget process started. They put together a schedule starting in December, which council was given in January throughout this entire budget process. So it is not something that you just wake up one morning and say, oh, we're going to do the budget this week. I mean, it's a long-term process to get from December, when we're talking about a schedule, to where we are, ending this fiscal year, June 30th, and starting July 1st. We just actually finished up the audit from last year. So it just seems like we're working on some aspect of the budget 12 months a year. So thank you, Brian and staff, for getting all this compiled.
We'll be starting earlier next year.
And we have nobody signed up for public comment, so I'll close this meeting at 6:44. And then at the May 13th council meeting, then we'll be addressing the budget. The council will be at that meeting. So I need a motion to approve the minutes for the regular town council meeting of March 11th.
So, yeah. Second, and if I may, I did catch one, just a correction of the approval minutes for, should read for February 12th in the
I
minutes.
caught it.
Okay, cool.
Oh, so
Other
you-
than that,
so you
I'll
have
second.
that
Okay,
adjusted.
sorry, I just,
All right.
okay.
Thank you, Mr. Jack. So Ms. Estes, I made a motion, Mr. Jack, had a second, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. All right, now we're on the action items. First up is the consideration of the fiscal year 24 allocation of contingency funds. Fiscal year 24 budget has a total of $50,000 in contingency funds built into the expenditures for unplanned expense. The use of contingency funds requires approval by the Dayton Town Council. The fiscal year 24 budget has 25,000 in the general fund and 25,000 in the capital, or I'm sorry, in the water fund. We are recommending $25,000 in the general fund go towards the purchase of the 2023 Ford Escape, and the 25,000 in the water fund, in conjunction with the budget amendment, is going to be towards the cost of associated with the high service pump and refurbished motor. Staff and Finance Committee recommend approval of these of the fiscal year 24 contingency funds to be allocated as presented. I need a motion for the fiscal year 24 allocation of contingency funds as presented.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Ijak. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any discussion on this? Do I have a roll call, please, Ms. Wade?
Mr. Seward,
Aye.
Ms. Matthias. Aye. Ms. Estes. Ms. Pennell. Aye. Mr. Dijak.
Aye.
Mr. Walls. Mayor Jackson.
Aye, motion passes. Thank you. Next up is consideration of the fiscal year 24 budget amendment pursuant to Virginia Code 15.2-2507. Any locality may amend its budget to adjust the aggregate amount of the appropriated during the current year as shown in the currently adopted budget as prescribed by 15.2-2504. However, any such amendment which exceeds 1% of the total expenditure shows in the currently adopted budget must be accompanied by first holding a public hearing on the amendment, which we did. With the public hearing concluded, the town council intends to continue adoption of an amendment to increase the town's fiscal year 2023-24 budget in the total amount of $392,671. The increase reflects additional expenses for professional fees related to the interim town manager services and recruitment, and a compensation study, capital purchase of, and increased costs for materials, supplies, and equipment. The amendment also reflects additional income use of reserve in the amount of $392,671 from ARPA and USDA funds and other unadjudicated and, unanticipated and increased revenue sources. Say that 3 times fast. Staff and Finance Committee recommends approval of the fiscal year 24 budget amendment as presented. I need a motion to approve the fiscal year 24 budget.
If I might suggest with a friendly amendment, to add to a long motion that the funds be appropriated for the purposes.
Instead, okay.
So
To
moved.
approve the appropriation of the budget amendment.
Amending the budget and appropriating are something we always do in tandem, but we need to remember to do both.
Thanks, sir. That's why we pay you the big bucks.
So move with that amendment as stated.
Thank you, Mr. Dijak. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mallory. Roll call, please, Ms. Wade.
Mayor Jackson,
Aye.
Mr. Seward,
Aye.
Ms. Pennell. Aye. Mr. Dijak,
Aye.
Ms. Estes. Ms. Matthias. Aye. Mr. Walls.
Motion passes. Thank you. The next action item is the consideration of the grants policy and procedures. During the fiscal year 23 audit, Brown Edwards advised the town that due to the recent ARPA grant opportunities, the town needed to adopt a form federal funds procurement policy. The town of Dayton has developed a grants policy and procedures to assist with the process for applying for and receiving grant funds. Financial policies must be approved and adopted by the town council. I need a motion to adopt the grants policy and procedures as presented. Thank you, Ms. Estes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. Motion passes. Next action item is the consideration of the proposed special use permit for Black Brothers Painting. Public hearing was held earlier this evening. Mr. Bradford, would you like to have a recommendation on that?
Sure, Mr. Mayor and council, as you saw after the duly conducted public hearing, the planning commission unanimously recommended to approve the special use permit. And if I may, just for the sake of getting discussion, I'll make the motion that first that the council that the council finds that the use is appropriate and consistent with the character of the zoning district and location and consistent with the comprehensive plan. And that the council will grant a special use permit special use permit for the proposed use of structure as it will further the town's objectives as expressed in town zoning code, section 30-3. And that the council approve the special use permit for Black's Painting, for, what's it, parcel 107D, 1-15-1A, for the construction of an office workshop building for a painting contractor's business consistent with the plans they have submitted for building number 2, with the conditions that the rear parking area be screened from the residential areas with sufficient evergreen trees planted at least 6 feet in height in a single row parallel with the property boundary line as approved by the zoning administrator and prior to the issuance of the certificate of occupancy.
Very good.
All right, there you go.
Did you want to add anything about the waiver of the proffers from brick to stone?
I believe we were gonna have that handle that as second motion, correct, Ms.
Right.
Roche?
Yes, very good.
Do we have any discussion on that?
No, I think we need a second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yep.
Okay.
Well, let's do the second and then we'll go to discussion.
Second.
Thanks, Susan. All right, now for discussion.
I just had a question, because you had extra property, and you said that maybe they'll add on to it later, and whatever, but. Now that's just gonna be for the painting company and not switching to the development floorings coming now, and it's just that business is gonna take over that land completely.
You could,
Cause she.
For building
she
2.
said- Clint's wife said that they're separate companies, so I mean.
Hmm.
Is that what they made y'all believe in the planning commission?
no, what she just, we had inadvertently said,
No, I know that. but I'm
Flooring,
saying-
not
no,
painting.
I understand that. I'm asking if, when they go to expand, it's just gonna be expansion of their business. And not adding the others and everything, you know what I mean? Because they're a separate. entity.
Yeah.
Clint bought the painting.
I
It's
think
only
Mr.
for the painting.
It's just for the painting.
Yeah.
Even the expansions.
Right, it's only for the
Okay.
painting.
That's all I know.
Yeah.
For it, I just was asking.
That's a good question. Yeah, and I'll just be clear. Yeah, this one is just for building 2 for the special use permit. And then I know then the second, the proper amendment would be for all of the lot.
but just to clarify, you're not
saying-
asking if the rest of those buildings are gonna be for Black's Paint.
Yeah, I'm saying like when they go to add, if they want to add to their 4 acres that they got and expand their business, it's just for the painting business. Or if it was for the other one, would they have to come and get a permit? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
It's
if it
just
was
the
for a
painting.
different-
She
if it was-
answered me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
if it was for a different like service business, then yes, they would have to go back through the process
Okay.
again. If they wanted to expand the painting part of it, though, they wouldn't need to
Yeah, that's
start
fine.
again.
I don't know, I'm just wondering.
Roll call, please, Ms. Wade.
Ms. Estes? Ms. Pennell? Aye. Mr. Dijak?
Aye.
Ms. Matthias? Aye. Mr. Walls?
Aye.
Mayor Jackson?
Aye,
Mr. Seward?
Aye.
motion passes. Thank you. If you want to go. on.
Sure, I'll go ahead. I'll go ahead, based on the recommendation of the planning commission after the duly conducted public hearing. And as requested by the applicant, make a motion to amend the existing B1 conditional zoning condition proffers relating to stonework and allowing that to be substituted for brickwork. In other words, that stonework would be allowed for 75% of the minimum coverage of the building rather than brick. And this would apply for any future building in addition to building 2 on that parcel.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on this one? Roll call, please. Ms. Wade?
Ms. Pennell? Aye. Ms. Estes? Mr. Seward?
Aye.
Ms. Matthias? Aye. Mr. Walls?
Aye.
Mayor Jackson?
Aye.
And Mr. Dijak?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you very much for that. Next, action item is a police assistant pack, which I'll have Chief speak on after I get, done with this verbiage. The primary purpose of this pact is to ensure that officers from other jurisdictions are vested with police powers when serving at the town of Dayton events. A secondary purpose is to vest police powers in officers from participating jurisdictions in situations not adequately covered by the countywide mutual aid government. The towns of Bridgewater, Broadway, Elkton, Grottoes, Mount Crawford, Newmarket, Shenandoah, and Timberville have already adopted an ordinance approving the police assistance pact. Chief, did you have anything you would like to add to that?
No, it's a very good question. Essentially, police department have been used in ways. This is just the way that allows towns to have a smaller police force. You have assistance from the community. So like, for right now, we have implemented the Bridgewater where their backup officer, they're all backup. So all the 2 officers, we have one working in Bridgewater. We're going to assist each other for that. And then the other one, we all had events. We had that Saturday. I had to bring in 2 Timberville officers to assist with security. So we had not had on attorney leave. We'll find something. But things like that where
Thank you, Chief. Need a motion to approve the police assistance pact as presented. Mr. Seward, do I have a second? So Ms. Estes, thank you. Any discussion on this? All in favor?
We need,
Aye.
All opposed?
we need to do
Yeah,
a
roll call.
roll
Oh,
call.
okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Jackson?
Aye.
Mr. Dijak?
Aye.
Mr. Seward?
Aye.
Mr. Walls?
Aye.
Ms. Pennell? Aye. Ms. Estes? Ms. Matthias? Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you all for that. That concludes the action items for this evening, right? Do we have public comments? Okay, so we have no public comments this evening. So we'll move on to staff reports with Mr. Moore.
All right, well, first of all, I got to attend the Redbud Festival. It was my first. It is a very, very good event. It, in my opinion, went off like clockwork, and that doesn't happen by accident. That is due to your staff that organizes this, and I will be remiss if I don't take this opportunity to publicly commend, and I am going to call a few names in that regard. But it takes a lot of effort and a lot of behind the scenes to put on an event like that. And most people don't know what that entails, but that's a lot of hours and work and coordinating and logistics and everything you could imagine that goes into those events. And Dayton does quite a few of them. And it's the staff that I get to work with that make those things happen. And I really appreciate that. But I want to acknowledge Maggie and Christine because they are the horses behind this event and others. They take care of all of the planning, the marketing, the organizing, coordinating with your vendors, scheduling, entertainment, food trucks, everything you can think of. They take care of it. And not only them, but all staff. It's all hands on deck for this event, and they were all out there at 6 o'clock Saturday morning. Everyone happy to be there. So you've got a great staff. Of course, they'd probably rather be somewhere else, but they were happy to be there. And I have to mention Jennifer and her Public Works team, because they have a tremendous impact on this event with barricades and trash and setup and breakdown. And just prepping everything, making the town look wonderful in anticipation of this event. So it's without their efforts, we couldn't do this. But most of all, I want to thank Jennifer personally for jumping into the creek, because Brian doesn't go in water. That's an inside joke. And then the chief, with his team, we did have to bring in a couple of people, a couple of officers from Timberville, but they're out there making sure the traffic is controlled and we don't have anything going on that's not supposed to be going on during the event. And sometimes those are difficult situations to handle, and you have to tell someone they need to stop, but the chief does a good job at handling that PR for us. So without them, we couldn't do this. And then behind the scenes, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Krista and her finance team, because there's a lot they do in preparation and issuing checks and receiving payments. And that's all in addition to what's normal to the everyday monthly or weekly payroll. So we have a wonderful team here. And then I don't want to forget our community volunteers that are out there with us throughout the day, giving of their time and efforts to put this on. The event was tremendous. I did get to go around, meet with, talk to some vendors, buy a few things, also visit some of our downtown merchants. Some of them were too busy for me to go in. I went a little later for some. There were sales happening, but these events are to get people downtown. And I think this event does a great job. There is a captive audience for everyone to sell to downtown on Redbud Day. So, but we can only do so much. We can bring them down here. The rest is up to everyone else. The shopping, those kinds of things. But it was a tremendous event. And I just really want to commend staff and thank them for all their hard work. It came together like clockwork. So it was all good. And it was my first experience. So, and I'm sure there were glitches, but in the bigger scheme of things, there always are in any event. You can plan all you want, but you'll always get them. And we handle those as they come. A few other things in addition to that, we did have an all-staff meeting to go over the personnel policy updates that were approved at the last meeting, just to inform all of the employees about those. That was on the 14th of March. On the 21st, the CIP was presented to the Planning Commission for their recommendation to council on that. And they did recommend the CIP move forward. So that's coming before you. That'll be part of the budget you approve, or you'll be presented in May. The PMT, the project management team meeting, did have a remote meeting with Pond. Pond is under contract to do the downtown master plan. That was on the 27th of March. And there's other things in the report that are written. The one new thing as of today, we did hear back from the city of Harrisonburg on that easement for Silver Lake Nature Trail. And I think we are ready to move forward with Harrisonburg on that easement. I think we've got it pretty much ironed out. So now it's just the formality of taking care of the approval, correct, George?
Finally.
That's all I have. Happy to answer any questions.
You'll believe it when you see it, won't you?
I got the writing today.
Get that, smash burger truck for some of the concerts, like seriously, it was fantastic.
We can try, we'll reach out.
I said something to her about it. I think you should reach out. I told her to call you, but maybe call her. They need to come back more often.
We hope they come back to more festivals too.
Yeah. Oh, she's not. I know to bring more meat.
I think they sold out, yeah.
Yeah, she said they'd be more prepared, but I don't know if y'all ate one. But my goodness, I got me and my daddy one, and my dog ate half. It was fantastic.
Chief Trail for the police department.
You will have my staff force. If questions, I'll answer them.
Thank you, Chief. Mr. Bowman.
I have no report.
Thanks, sir. All right, down to Mr. Dijak for Economic Community Development and Finance.
I'll just echo all the plaudits that Mr. Bourne gave to the staff. And again, it's another day for Dayton to shine, and shine we did, even with the little blustery wind and a little bit of chill, but that not deter or chill our spirits. So I will say that was great. And thank you all again. Seriously, I'm always amazed at how much this little town gets done. We do things that towns, twice or three times our size don't even dream to tackle. So thank you all. So I think all's good there. And again, excited about the downtown revitalization. And I'll just make a plug for we've got, I know we had Shenandoah Valley's Best, but we've got a number of businesses that are in the running for Best of the Valley. I know Maggie is promoting all that. So vote early and vote often. There you go for our dating businesses. And then for finance, I'll just say you heard it all there. So so thank you, Ms. Hall, for your behind the scenes work there to get us to where we need to be with all the budget amendments, all the proper verbiage, all the posting, and all the wonderful things behind the scenes. And Mr. Bourne for the presentation. So very good shape.
Thank you, Mr. Dijak. Mr. Seward, infrastructure, please.
Brian had them busy enough that we didn't meet, so.
Mr. Walls for Park Recreation and Beautification.
Yeah, we didn't meet because of Ryan.
Blame it on me.
Miss Mathias.
Ditto. No, we
It's in
didn't.
that job description.
We didn't. I think we were, maybe before the next meeting, I think we were planning to meet, but we did not meet since the last meeting.
All right, do we have any unfinished business? Any new business this evening? Need a motion to adjourn.
Thank you.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Morris, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting adjourned. 7:07.
I didn't,
Have
you
you
know,
met the baker?
do you know I had a dog at there all this? And I didn't pass passes you. And my dog at the Red Bug all day.
I see.